once somebody comes up with a way to stop a mobile quarterback, or at least limit a mobile quarterback, and in this case, Julian Love was pretty honest after the game. One of the Giants' defensive backs flat out said, guess what? We wanted him to throw the football. That's the most concerning part for me. Not losing. You know, you're still in it. San Francisco beat Minnesota, as I expected. Minnesota's the last team in the playoff hunt. They would be the 7th seed today. They're a half game ahead of the Eagles. Their whole defensive line is out. Gone. Oh, poof. It's gone. They're done. They could easily still make the playoffs. I'm more concerned about the bigger picture, to be honest.
Birds 365.
Still a good morning, Jody. It's a good
You sure?
Morning. Sure,
if
why
we're
not?
breathing it, does that make it a good morning,
exactly,
Johnny Mac?
Exactly. It's the holiday season. Come on.
Okay.
It's not the end of the world. It's a bad football game.
It was a bad football game. And the reason why I'm even debating on whether it was a good morning or not, I looked down at my sheet and saw this is episode number 165 of Birds 365.
Yeah, 165.
You and I have been doing a solid for several months now. And we went through the prep to the draft and then the lead up to camp. And you're running down to the NovaCare complex and watching the guys run around in shorts on a day in, day out basis, into the preseason, into the start of the regular season with a win, but then a drop off and a couple of butt kickings, and the Eagles actually getting an identity and winning a bunch of games. Yeah, I'm going to tell you, Johnny Mac, of the previous 164 Birds 365 shows that we've done, I think this is the most disappointing one. Wow. I think this is the toughest day to do. And they got their tail kicked some games early in this season. But because, at least, and I'm talking about just for myself here, I started to buy the hype. I started to buy into that they can do that. They can run the football down other teams' throats and be able to compete and make a playoff run. You know, I gave you all the scenarios. I put in friggin' 45 minutes of matching records between the Eagles and the Cowboys last week to come up with a scenario whereby that last game of the season could be for the NFC East. It all goes for naught when you lose to the New York Giants.
Yeah, and I'm a little bit different. I tried to steer clear of the Cowboys and NFC East talk because they're just a more talented team. And ultimately, that's my thought process. Look, you know, and I think maybe it's a little bit ironic that you're at MetLife Stadium in the Meadowlands, not, the complex used to be the home of Bill Parcells all those years. And he's the one famous for saying you are what your record says you are. And my point with that is you're a 5-6 team. You're a 5-6 team. Don't act like you're an 8-win team. Don't act like you're a 9-win team. Inconsistency is part of it. That's the reason. That's what differentiates good teams from bad teams. And you can't go into a game feeling you're superior over anybody in the NFL, or you're going to get punched in the face. I got a lot of that. I got that feeling from the Eagles that they're, the Giants are in disarray. We talked about it all week, firing the offensive coordinator, Jason Garrett. Then the story comes out, which isn't really a story. Everybody knows it's probably the end of Dave Gettleman with the Giants as the GM on the morning of the game. They have a ton of injuries. All their playmakers are basically either banged up or not playing. And the Eagles, I thought, went into this game with two goals. Let's win the game, obviously, number one. I'm not saying that's number one, but number two, let's evolve this offense. Let's try some different things. Let's get this thing going. Let's start to improve for bigger tests down the line. No, you just got to go out and win the football game the best way you can. And they were unable to do that. And they still had opportunities. I mean, they should have won it, amazingly, if Jalen Reagor can hang on to the football on two different occasions. And who knows? I mean, the second one, he's probably coming down at the 1 yard line. So you got to rush up but you're going to have 1 or 2 opportunities to win the game. If you get up and spike the ball. I just thought they were feeling themselves. And I always say in the NFL, you've heard me say this, Jody, you can talk yourself into things. The Giants, as bad as they are, they have a lot of good players. And you saw Dexter Lawrence create the fumble. Leonard Williams is a really good player. James Bradbury's a really good player. They had a really good plan. From moment one, they came out with 2 defensive linemen and 4 linebackers, and they tried to confuse Jalen Hurts. And guess what? They confused Jalen Hurts. So you got to give Patrick Graham a lot of credit. And, oh, by the way, other teams are going to be looking at that film and looking at how Patrick Graham played defense against Jalen Hurts, and he's going to see it again, and they're going to make him figure it out. That's what this league is. And I've been saying it. They went about it different. I mentioned that Miami game against Baltimore. I mentioned the Antoine Winfield game, as I call it, Antoine Winfield Sr. Once somebody comes up with a way to stop a mobile quarterback, or at least limit a mobile quarterback, and in this case, Julian Love was pretty honest after the game. One of the Giants' defensive backs flat out said, guess what? We wanted him to throw the football. That's the most concerning part for me. Not losing. You're still in it. San Francisco beat Minnesota, as I expected. Minnesota's the last team in the playoff hunt. They would be the 7th seed today. They're a half game ahead of the Eagles. Their whole defensive line is out. Gone. Oh, poof. It's gone. They're done. They could easily still make the playoffs. I'm more concerned about the bigger picture, to be honest.
The bigger picture being, these are the Eagles. And if you're right, and you had a sense of it because you were in the stadium, you don't really get a chance to talk to the players prior to the game. You get a feeling of them after the game. Hey, it's tough for me to be harsh today. I'm going to do it because that's my job. But it's tough to be harsh because I was smelling the Eagles too. Absolutely last week. And I picked them. You picked them. We both picked them to win by more than a touchdown yesterday. So we bought the hype ourselves a little bit. If that was the case and they came in a little too high on themselves coming into the game, each and every individual player has to look themselves in the mirror. How much of this is on the coaching staff? That they couldn't sense that before the game started. They couldn't cut that off at the pass. They couldn't keep that from playing itself out on the field over 60 minutes. How much do we look at Nick Sirianni and his staff and go, wait a minute, how did you guys not let this happen? If we can correctly say, the Eagles came in too high on themselves before the game.
Well, I don't know if you can. I mean, that's the problem. I mean, it's just human nature. I call them human nature games. I did say, look, the only way they're going to lose this game is if they come in with their C game. If they come in with their A game, they're going to win. But if you're not on your P's and Q's in the NFL, somebody's going to pop up and beat you, even if they look really bad. And I think that's what happened to the Eagles, unfortunately. And that's why when I go back to the Bill Parcells quote, that's why you're 5-6. That's why there's inconsistencies. That kind of stuff happens to everybody, but it doesn't happen to good teams as much, where they, you're under 500 and you're acting, people are talking about running the table. And by the way, I don't think the Eagles felt that way. I don't think they're looking at, we're going to run. I think that was more of, media fan driven, whatever, whichever one. I know who the fans want to blame. But, either way, come on. You knew it was going to happen. I didn't think it was going to happen against this team on this week, but I knew it was going to happen. I thought it was going to happen against Washington, or maybe even the Giants here when things settled down a little bit for that organization. But I knew they were going to have one of these games because they're a young football team. And that's what happens. It happens everywhere in this league. You see it all the time.
All right, we got to point the finger of guilt at a whole bunch of Eagles today. I'm going to do just that.
No shortage of that.
Over the course of today's 2 hours and tomorrow's 2 hours. At some point, we'll start to turn our attention to another trip up the turnpike and game against the Jets, who found a way to win a game yesterday, which the Eagles didn't do. But at the top of the list are the two Jalen's, Reagor and Hurts. Let's go Reagor first. Yes, the last ball he absolutely has to catch. I'm sorry. You get extended up in the air, clear of the defender, both hands on the football. You have to come down with it. He didn't. There's a reason for that. He's not a good player. It doesn't matter where the Eagles took him. It doesn't matter whether it was a Doug Peterson pick or a Howie Roseman pick or a Jeff Lurie pick. Whoever picked them, it is irrelevant at this point. This kid can't play. And most of the blame, of course, goes to him. Part of the blame goes to Jalen Reagor because he chose Jalen Hurts because he chooses to throw the ball to him. But part of the blame also goes to Nick Sirianni because he's still got him out there. He's got him on the field. And if he's in the play and he's running a pattern and your quarterback chooses to throw him the ball and he refuses to catch it, that's on you, coach. Yeah. Why is Jalen Reagor out there as often as he is to give Jalen Hurts the chance to make a mistake and throw him the football?
Yeah, I'm with you at this point with Jalen Reagor. And look, I think you're right. And he's a great athlete who is not a good football player. He has all the requisites. We always talk about at draft time. He can run. He's got the huge vertical. Every once in a while, the athleticism will shine through, like the punt return for a touchdown. But he can't run routes. He can't catch the football consistently. He's not an effective player in an NFL offense. And, at some point, you got to raise your hands and say, all right, this guy's not producing. Now, part of the problem is you don't have anybody to replace him, but I don't care. I don't care if it's Sean Hightower. I don't care if it's Keyshawn Johnson. Forget about J.J. Arcega-Whiteside and Greg Ward. All right, those guys, if you think those guys are worse than Jalen Reagor, well, that tells you all you need to know about those guys. So try somebody else. Go to the practice squad. Sign somebody off somebody else's practice squad. They got to give you more production. They literally have to give you more production. And it's very difficult, we know, for GMs to do this type of thing. But this organization has been slowly lobbying behind the scenes for a long time now that was a coaching staff pick. So they've already been trying to distance themselves from Jalen Reagor, and that tells you all you need to know. I mean, you're trying to distance yourself. You might as well distance yourself. It's time to bench him, to be honest. And if you want to come up with a reason, a hamstring strain, an ankle tweak, do whatever you have to do. But get somebody on the field that can help you at least a little bit. And, they played JJ a little bit more as a blocking receiver. He had another catch, which is, something. Your guy, Greg Ward, had an opportunity at the goal line. I'm not sure. Some people said it was a drop. You probably had a better look than me. I don't know. But clearly they don't think he's effective. This wide receiver position has been an issue all year outside Devontae Smith, and they need a veteran. And that's the way they have to go about it. But that's for the off season. There's not much you can do at this stage.
Correct. Let me tell you about Greg Ward. And I'm the president of the Greg Ward fan club, but this is going to come off sounding like it's just Jody's overall bias toward Greg Ward. I'm wiping the slate clean. This is just Jody McDonald, the objective football observer. I like Mark Sklareth, the ex-Bronco, ex-ESPN guy, now Fox play caller. I think he does a pretty good job. I think he's good at it. We get different guys every single week, unlike with basketball and hockey and baseball, where you listen to the hometown guys every single week. If you turn down the sound on your TV and listen to Mike and Merrill, more power to you. If not, you're subjected to whoever that broadcast outlet chooses to have do your games on the given day. He said that the ball that Greg Ward made a play on in the end zone should have been caught. If I remember correctly, Mark Schlereth was a offensive lineman in the National Football League. I don't remember Mark Schlereth ever catching any ball that came his way. It was a short pass delivered as a bullet, which Greg Ward had to leave his feet and fully extend just to get his fingertips on, and he couldn't come down with the ball. As compared to Jalen Reagor, who went up, all he had to do was jump straight up, got both hands clean, and didn't come down with the football. One was a drop. One was a bad play. One was an unfortunate, he couldn't come up with a highlight-type catch. The fact that some people going, Greg Ward dropped the touchdown. No, he didn't. Jalen Hurts threw the ball about 6 inches off the ground, a fastball from short range, and Ward couldn't grasp it with his overly extended fingers. That's completely unfair. And by the way, when was the last time Greg Ward was targeted? Week 4? Week 6? Somewhere thereabouts? He hadn't even had the ball thrown his way in a month and a half. Jalen Reagor had 6 opportunities to make a play prior to that play at the end zone. So please don't compare those two things. Don't say, Reagor dropped the touchdown pass and Ward dropped the touchdown pass. No, they didn't. They're not even close to being the same thing. I still am rooting for Greg Ward. I think he deserves the reps that Jalen Reagor has been getting next week. I'll take my chances with him over Jalen Reagor every day of the week and twice on Sunday. If it goes to J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, I'll surely take him over Reagor, but I wouldn't take him over Ward. The coach has got to do something. He cannot put Reagor out there as many snaps next week as he did these past however.
Yeah, I'm probably prepared to go the John Hightower route or even Deion Kane or Keyshawn Johnson, the receivers on the practice squad that we don't know much about. You know where the MetLife press box is. So basically, sure. Greg Ward's back was to me. So we couldn't see that play all that much at all. I do know Jalen Hurts was incredibly inaccurate in the first half as a whole, pretty much the entire game, but he played pretty well on the final drive. That was about it. So, yeah, I mean, he doesn't throw the most catchable ball at times, no question about it. We've seen drops from Devontae Smith. I mean, we've seen drops from everybody. Because this isn't Aaron Rodgers throwing the football. You know, I think on the final play, a lot of people are saying Devontae Smith was open, which he was for a very short window, and it was sort of coming off a crossing route. They had double crossing routes underneath, and it was really flat to the quarterback. So, I mean, it would have had to have been a strike for him to hit Devontae Smith on that particular play. And he's just not capable of making that throw. So I kind of chuckle when people say, Devontae's open. He's open for some quarterbacks, but he's not open for all quarterbacks. And I thought Jalen Hurts did a tremendous job of extending the play and waiting for somebody to clear. And he finds his receiver in the middle of the field at essentially the goal line. As I said, probably would have been stopped at the 1 yard line. He gets both hands on the football, and he doesn't make the catch. First-round pick, 6th-round pick, undrafted free agent, guy off the street. You're an NFL player. You got to make that catch. And if you don't make that catch, you got to take a seat on the bench.
John, I'm going to ask you if you take the game, which I'm sure you did, and you said you didn't have the best angle to see the Ward play. Please go back and watch it again.
I'm gonna watch the game.
Could he have caught the ball? Yes, it would have been, in my account, a fairly amazing catch. It was a bad pass. He didn't save his quarterback's butt as compared to some of the Reagor drops. And this is going to be one of those games where you're going to wish you had the all 22, because in addition to the ball going Jalen Reagor's way, 7, count them, 7 times. Jalen Hurts chose to throw the ball to Jalen Reagor 7 times. And again, when you're watching it on TV, like 99.9% of our audience do, you only get to see what Fox chooses to show you. So you can't tell where other players were on the field on those given plays when the ball goes Reagor's way. But the fact that Devonta Smith and Dallas Goedert only got the ball thrown to them 7 times for the entire game to equate to the same number that Jalen Reagor got targeted boggles my mind. Now, here's where I'll point the finger of guilt, that at least for myself, if you want to jump in and say so, feel free. We've been, over the last several weeks, talking about someone else needs to catch the football for the Eagles other than Devonta Smith and Dallas Goedert, because if they're not throwing it to Smith and Goddard, who the hell are they throwing it to? We kept harping on there needs to be a third and or a fourth and or a fifth option. You just can't do that. And I told you before the game, one of the things I liked about Giants, I don't like much about the Giants at all, was their secondary. I think their secondary is actually pretty good, and I thought they could cover, and I thought they might make it difficult on the Eagles in the passing game. I don't know if they did or didn't. Without the all-22, you don't know if they didn't get open. Or did Devonta Smith and Goddard have bad games? Did they not get open? Did they not get separation? Did they not run good patterns? I don't know that. Maybe someone will ask the coach about that because they'll have watched the game tape by the time you guys get a chance to talk to them today. Did Jalen Hurts just make a decision ahead of time? I got to spread the ball around, and that meant throwing it unsuccessfully to Jalen Reagor? How the hell do Smith and Goddard combine for 3 catches?
I can tell you right away. And this is where I brought up his name earlier in the show. Good game plan from Patrick Graham. Okay. He was taking away Dallas Goedert. They were bracketing Dallas Goedert. So number one, they really wanted to take the tight end out of the football game, and they had a mentality that, okay, this is going to be his default setting, Jalen Hurts' default setting on third down. They took Dallas Goedert away. And as good as Dallas Goedert is, as good as he has been, this is not Devontae Adams. This is not, Stephon Diggs. This is not even Devonta Smith, guys who can run routes and guys who can get open no matter what. Tight ends, you got to, if they're your top threat, you probably got an issue. So then you start talking about Devonta Smith. Devonta was pretty frustrated, and especially on the last play, he thought he was open again. I just tweeted the last play, so if everybody wants to go look at it on my Twitter account, JF McMullen, at JF McMullen, you can look at it. Devonta is open for a very, very short period of time, and the safety is over the top. And I mean, you got to get the football out on time. It's got to be delivered over the corner who's underneath. It's got to be a really nice throw in a tight window. Pretty easy for certain quarterbacks, and we all know who those quarterbacks are. I don't know if it was easy for Jalen Hurts yesterday. He was not accurate. So I think people are overblown. I think, as I said, Jalen Hurts did a good job extending that play, did a good job. And at some point it's desperation. Oh, that guy's open. It's 4th and 10. The clock's the waning seconds. I got to take my shot. Your receiver lets you down. They don't have they don't have a third option. We've been talking about this for weeks. It was gonna bite them. And Quez Watkins is not that third option. Is he better than Jalen Reagor? Yeah. Is he a good third option on an NFL team? Not even close. Not even close. So it's kind of, do you want to make excuses for Jalen Hurts? Do you want to make excuses for Jalen Reagor? It's probably easier to make excuses for Hurts. This team is not equipped to come from behind. for a lot of the reasons we're discussing. And when we talk about can you run, guess what? The Eagles ran for 200 yards.
Put up 200
again. But what have I been saying, Jody? When you play football that way, the margin of error is very, very small. You saw the margin of error. Boston Scott rolling, fumble. Jalen Hurts, bad decision at the goal line at the end of the half. Take the field goal. Take Jake Elliott field goals, and you're up 6-3 instead of down 3-0. Margin of error, very small. Nate Herbig's got to play. Jason Kelsey gets hurt. Jack Driscoll gets hurt. 2 holding calls. Oh, we're running the football. Here it comes back. Really, really small margin of error. You saw it.
That is a very fair critique as to what happened yesterday. I don't want to get too far afield because we have to stay in the moment. As painful as the moment may be with yesterday's loss, you just gave a pretty good rundown of where the Eagles sit wide receiver-wise. They got Devontae Smith, who may or may not have been open on that final play. We know he was only targeted 3 times yesterday for 22 yards on the 2 catches he had. Just not good enough, but we have faith that he is a star wide receiver in the making, if not already there. And then the Mojave Desert, nothing after Devonta Smith. Will the Eagles, with one of those 3 first-round draft picks this year, which, oh, by the way, didn't help that the Dolphins found a way to win yesterday. The Eagles at least kept their pick viable with a loss, but the Colts also lost, and Carson Wentz played the entire game. And, oh, by the way, 2 big turnovers in the second half. That's the Carson we know and love here in Philadelphia. Does Howie Roseman at all have the nerve enough to go back and grab another wide receiver in the first round for the 3rd consecutive year?
I do not think he does. I do not think this. I think this team is sick and tired of young receivers, and they are going to find somebody who already knows how to play, and they're going to put them in there, and they're going to go to the free agency route. They're going to have the ability to do it. And again, you don't need a superstar. You need an Alshon Jeffrey type pre-Liz Frank injury when he was playing through the shoulder injury and going to the Super Bowl. That's the type of player you want to get on the open market who knows how to play. And I know people don't want to hear that name, but the revisionist history forgets he was very successful early. That's the type of player they have to go after. They have to go after a proven commodity who knows how to play. No more of this developmental nonsense at that position.
I hear you, but that perfect guy might be very difficult to get. So there are 2 ways that you address a position. One is via 3, I should say, because Howie Roseman does pull an occasional trade, and that's another thing he's not bad at. But draft, trade, free agent, if you get thwarted in one of the 3 or 2 of the 3, then you must turn around and acknowledge that you've got to go down a road again, and it might be via the draft this year with a wide receiver, because nobody is going to argue after yesterday's game that the Eagles need to upgrade the wide receiver position. He's John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald. We are Birds 365. We'll continue to break down yesterday's game. We'll get our buddy Chris Franklin up a little bit later in the show. He, too, suffered through yesterday's mess at the No miracle at the Meadowlands, just a flat-out mess at the Meadowlands.
Almost a miracle. Semi-miracle.
Do you even get credit for that? Do the powers that be even acknowledge an almost miracle?
No.
I think that's kind of like being it's like being almost pregnant, John.
Yeah.
It's kind of a
certainly not, especially when you're playing that Giants team. I mean, that's a miracle you lost, is what that was.
Yes, not a good effort, not a good result. That's for damn sure. Yesterday at the Meadowlands or MetLife Stadium, call it what you want. Giants, Eagles going right back up there 7 days from now. What's worse than losing to the Giants, losing to the Jets? Could that be the case? We shall see. We appreciate you tuning in on an ugly I said the most depressing Monday, the most depressing of the 165 shows we've done here on Birds 365. Shame on me. I bought the hype. McMullen, not as much as me. He can look at himself in the mirror. I can't. I bought the hype. I had the Eagles winning easy yesterday. We'll continue to break it down for you here on Birds 365.